Now looking at the next question, Bloyler's criteria for schizophrenia include all of the following except loosening of association, automatism, inappropriate affect and ambivalence. What do Bloyler's criteria pertain to? Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia originally was called dementia praecox by Kraepelin. He said that it is dementia because, like dementia, it involves a global decline of a person's mentation in general, and praecox means before time. So, dementia would usually occur in later ages around the 60s and 70s, and schizophrenia was seen to occur early. So, Kraepelin called this dementia praecox as opposed to manic depressive psychosis, which he said was a cyclical thing with normal periods in between. Schizophrenia term was given by Bloyler. First rank symptoms were given by Kurt Schneider. What were the first rank symptoms? Schneider observed a lot of patients with schizophrenia and essentially listed down the most common symptoms which he observed and called these the first rank symptoms. Schizophrenia is a severe mental illness and its prevalence is approximately 1% in the general population, and there is, again, as in delusional disorder, there is no gender preponderance. Males and females are at equal risk. Bloyler said that there are essentially 4 A's of schizophrenia. There is autism, that means that a person is self-absorbed. There is loosening of association, that is his thoughts, actions and emotions are not exactly in sync with each other. There is ambivalence, that is a person has great difficulty in making even the smallest decisions, and there is inappropriate affect, that means that a person reacts to a certain input in a manner which is not appropriate. For example, when a person hears a thing which is supposed to make him angry, he becomes happy, something like that. So, having known this, which of the following is not one of the 4 A's? Loosening of association is, inappropriate affect is, ambivalence is, automatism is not. Automatism is not one of the 4 A's of Bloyler. The first ranked symptoms given by Schneider can broadly be clubbed into 3 thought symptoms, 3 auditory hallucinations, 3 made phenomena and 2 other symptoms. The thought symptoms are thought insertion, that there is a delusional belief that a fully formed thought has been inserted into the person's mind. Thought withdrawal, again a delusion that a fully formed thought has been stolen or withdrawn from a person's mind. And thought broadcast, in which a person feels that whatever he is thinking is being broadcast like a radio, and all these thoughts are available for everybody to perceive. There are 3 auditory hallucination, in which there is thought echo. We must remember that thought echo is not a thought phenomenon, it is a auditory hallucination in which a person hears what he is saying. Third person auditory hallucinations discussing type, in which a person hears 2 people discussing about himself, and running commentary, in which he hears somebody speaking to him, commenting on everything that he is doing as if there is a commentary in a cricket match. There are 3 made phenomena. There is made affect, that means that a person believes that his affect, his emotion is being controlled by somebody else. There is made volition, volition means will, he feels that his will is being controlled by somebody else, that whatever he wants and whatever he is doing is controlled by somebody else, as if he is a robot and he is being controlled by a third person using a remote. And made impulse, in which he says that he gets sudden urges to do something and somebody else is making him have these urges. There is somatic passivity, in which a person is a reluctant passive recipient of an unpleasant sensation. For example, a person might feel that somebody is causing pressure on his throat as if he is strangulating him, but in reality there is nobody there. This is usually considered a thought phenomena, but has some component of a hallucination and a perceptual phenomena to it as well. And then there is delusional percept, in which a person sees something and completely misinterprets it to have some other meaning. For example, he sees a red light turn green and knows that all the police is out to catch him. This is the example of a delusional percept. The hallucinations are different, but all the thoughts which we heard have to be of course held at a delusional level for them to qualify to be a first rank symptom. The other clinical features are other delusions and hallucinations which are commonly seen but not a part of Schneider's first rank symptoms. For example, somebody may have a delusion of persecution, or somebody may have a delusion of infidelity as a part of schizophrenia. Disorganized speech and behavior. By disorganization means that the thoughts of the person are such that when they get translated into his speech or behavior, it is difficult to understand what the person is trying to say or what the person is trying to do, and these are unexplained speech and unexplained behavior. For example, somebody might collect some garbage on the road and bring it home and not give any explanation for the same, or sometimes the patient may speak in such a manner that it is difficult to understand him. This is called disorganized speech. Catatonic symptoms, as we will be seeing, these are certain motor symptoms such as rigidity, stupor, which these patients can have, and negative symptoms. Negative symptoms are essentially symptoms in the form of something which is normal in a normal person and is absent in patients with schizophrenia. These are classically apathy, avolition and alogia. Apathy means that the person has a complete lack of concern for whatever is going on around him. For example, if his family member is ill, he does not show any care even though a normal person would. Avolition means that a person has lost the will to do everything. This is different from depression. In depression also patients feel that we have lost the will to do everything, but then they would report that we have lost this will and they would be concerned about the fact that they have lost this will. In negative symptoms, the people lose their will and then they are not concerned about it. It is just that that will is absent. Alogia means that their speech output also decreases. These are some other symptoms of schizophrenia. So, looking at another, so these were till now what we talked about were various symptoms of schizophrenia. Now, the next question is, which of the following types of schizophrenia has a late acute onset and has a good prognosis? So, essentially we will be talking about types of schizophrenia. Is it simple schizophrenia, hebephrenic, catatonic or paranoid? Classically, paranoid schizophrenia is the one which we are all aware of. It is the most common. There are predominantly positive symptoms. So, as we talked about earlier, there are positive symptoms and negative symptoms. Positive symptoms are those which are normally not present in people and are add-on symptoms in patients with schizophrenia. For example, delusions, hallucinations, paranoia, etc. And negative symptoms are those which are things which are normally present in people and absent in patients with schizophrenia. Paranoid schizophrenia usually has a later onset. It has a good prognosis primarily because it has positive symptoms. Catatonic schizophrenia has motor symptoms. There is waxy flexibility. If we examine a patient with catatonia, we try and flex or extend a joint, we will feel as if we are bending a wax crayon. There is a steady sustained resistance all throughout, but then finally it stops in whichever position we put the limb in. There is posturing, that means a person will comfortable postures and maintain them for up to hours. There is Gegenhalten, in which a person, when we try to flex a limb, initially there will be some resistance followed by a sudden give, followed by resistance followed by a sudden give. So, for example, we will have something similar to cogwheel rigidity, but not exactly the same, in which a person will have a jerky flexion of the arm. Then Mid-Gehen and Mitmachen, these are phenomena. Mid-Gehen is the one in which whichever position you put the arm of the patient in, that arm remains in the same position. And Mitmachen is, these are German terms, Mitmachen is that with the least amount of pressure, sudden exaggerated movements take place. All these are symptoms which are elicited when we are examining a person, usually by flexing or extending their limbs. Psychological pillow is a phenomenon in which a person lays down but keeps his head in the air as if there was a pillow underneath his head. Other symptoms are mutism, that is speaking less than a certain amount of words per minute. Negativism, in which whatever is told to him a person does exactly the opposite. Automatic obedience is whatever a person is asked to do, however noxious. For example, if the person is asked to poke himself with a pin, he does it even though he knows that he is not supposed to do it. Catatonic schizophrenia also has a good prognosis and responds well to ECT. The difference primarily between paranoid and catatonic symptoms, apart from the fact that paranoid has positive symptoms, delusions and hallucinations, and catatonic has motor symptoms, is that catatonia occurs a little earlier and paranoid schizophrenia occurs a little later. Residual schizophrenia is usually seen after a person has recovered from the disorder. There is some amount of emotional blunting, social withdrawal present, there is some amount of odd and eccentric behavior present, and illogical thinking. These are essentially the fact that certain symptoms have remained, but to a much less degree as compared to when a person had full-fledged schizophrenia. Habiphrenic schizophrenia usually is seen in teenagers. It has early onset, it has an insidious onset. It is characterized by disorganization. The speech, the behavior is disorganized. There is no rhyme or reason or logic or sequence to what a person says or does. Classically, there is mirror gazing, there is facetious laughter. That means the person will keep on laughing without there being any humor in the laughter, as if somebody is just pretending to laugh. There is shallow affect, that means there is no depth of emotion, one cannot really connect emotionally with a patient. There is hoarding, these patients usually have a habit of bringing odd stuff and putting it and usually collecting it. Habiphrenic schizophrenia has a poor prognosis. And we see several poor prognostic signs here as well. For example, there is early onset, there is insidious onset, there is disorganization. So, all these symptoms are anyway poor prognostic factors and they are seen in habiphrenic schizophrenia, which itself has a poor prognosis. And then there is a simple schizophrenia called simple schizophrenia, not that commonly seen. It has a slow deterioration of personality with no specific symptoms. This has the worst prognosis of all of them. Having seen this, if we come back to the question, which of the following has a late acute onset and good prognosis? Technically, both catatonic and paranoid schizophrenia qualify for this sort of a question, but if we had to choose one of them, we would choose paranoid schizophrenia as it has a relatively later onset as compared to catatonic schizophrenia. The next question, which of the following statements is true? Schism and skew represent abnormal family pattern in obsessive compulsive disorders. Skew describes hostility between parents. Schism describes a dominant mother and a submissive father, and skew is more relevant in context of male children. With this, essentially we are looking at certain theories about the etiology of schizophrenia. There are several environmental factors which have been noted to be associated with schizophrenia. For example, winter and early spring births are known to have significantly larger incidence of schizophrenia as compared to summer births, and maternal starvation and maternal influenza has also been known to be significantly associated. Genetic factors, two genes which are very commonly associated are SCID1, NRG1, also called DISC1 gene, disrupted in schizophrenia 1 gene. These are a couple of genes which are indicated in which are associated with schizophrenia, and then there are certain familial behavioral patterns which are known to be associated with the occurrence of schizophrenia. So, there is something called schism. Schism means a divide. That means that one of the parents is overtly close to the child as compared to the other one, and usually this parent is overtly close to a child of the opposite gender. Then there is skew. Skew is that there is the power division between the parents is not equal, and one of the parents is dominant and one of the parents is submissive. It is said that when such a family dynamic occurs, the child is more likely to develop schizophrenia. And then there is something called expressed emotion. It is a very important concept in which there is criticism, that if a person experiences a lot of criticism or hostility or over involvement from any member of the family, the chances of developing schizophrenia, or if he already has schizophrenia, then the chances of relapse are much higher. Having seen this, if we go back to the question, the first option says schism and skew represent abnormal family pattern in obsessive compulsive disorders. We agree that schism and skew do represent abnormal family patterns, but not in OCD. These are defined for schizophrenia. So, this option is false. Skew describes hostility between parents. No, skew does not describe hostility, it describes an imbalance between the parents. Schism describes a dominant mother and a submissive father. What would this be? This would be the example of skew, that there is a difference of power and one of the parents is more dominant than the other. This will be an example of skew. And then the last option is skew is more relevant in context of a male child. So, this statement is true. Usually the power division is usually more in terms of a male child. So, this is the answer. A, B and C are wrong. Now, coming to the biological theories of schizophrenia, the neurotransmitters which are implicated in schizophrenia, the main one is dopamine. If one neurotransmitter is asked in schizophrenia, it is dopamine. There is considered to be a dopaminergic excess in schizophrenia, primarily at the D2 receptors in the limbic system. And this is what has been theorized to cause schizophrenia. The other neurotransmitters involved are serotonin. It is also considered that there is a serotonergic excess and there is a disruption of GABA and acetylcholine, and fall in acetylcholine is usually associated with the cognitive symptoms which are seen in schizophrenia. So, in neurotransmitters, what is important is to remember that there is a dopaminergic excess in the limbic system, and this dopaminergic excess acting on the D2 receptors causes positive symptoms, and there is as well a serotonergic excess. That was something about the etiology of schizophrenia. And now talking about the prognosis in schizophrenia. Poor prognostic factor for a patient of schizophrenia is late onset, insidious onset, depressive patient or obese patient. So, as we saw in the case of hebephrenic schizophrenia, one of the characteristics of hebephrenic schizophrenia is insidious onset, which also incidentally happens to be a poor prognostic sign. So, insidious onset is a poor prognosis sign, late onset is a good prognostic sign. Depressive patient and obese patients are usually, these two things have got nothing to do with the prognosis of schizophrenia. So, what are the poor prognostic signs? Male gender is a poor prognostic sign, early onset, insidious onset and prominent negative symptoms. These are poor prognostic signs. So, a male who has an illness early and which has an insidious onset, characterized by predominantly negative symptoms, has a poor prognosis, and the opposite of these will have a good prognosis. Females have a good prognosis, late onset has a good prognosis, acute onset has a good prognosis, having predominantly positive symptoms has a good prognosis. Now, one thing to remember is that the family history of schizophrenia has a poor prognosis, while a family history of mood disorders is a good prognostic sign. Poor social support or unmarried, naturally as a patient will not have anybody to look after him. Poor premorbid functioning, because even if a person gets better, there is nothing for him to really go back to and resume. Organic brain disease and disorganized or hebephrenic symptoms. These are all signs of a poor prognosis in schizophrenia. And with that, we reach the end of this section, and let's take a 2-minute break before we continue to the next section.